This is Jeremy Zwing of the Rice Trader, summarizing the September 9th TRT report. As always, a great pleasure to be here to talk about the world rice industry, the key things happening, and just give our clients a little bit of an update in video form. I would say this is a very interesting week. I would say the trade is very, very confused with various different thoughts, and it is showing in the BULOG tender and thoughts on the market and prices being offered in wide ranges. And me talking to the trade, and they're giving him 15 different answers of price thoughts and directional thoughts. So I would say it's a very confused market with different variety of thoughts and very much shifting to a new equilibrium. I think that's the summary statement. The market is shifting to a new equilibrium. We can see this in the BULOG tender. The initial offers we put out early in the week in the flash to our clients were vastly changed, as I warned, that the awards would not be anywhere close. In fact, the first Vietnam award was VIET 2, 578. The actual awarded value was 563 CIF, which you got to take about $30 out of there. Really, you're selling Viet rice, probably new crop Viet rice at 533, 530. That's really the reality of what this went for. There were cheaper lots as well. I mean, look at the MYANMARese lot at 545. That very well could be down much, much, much lower. So some people say the freight is higher if it's going to Myanmar, Pakistan. So you could be definitely in the 525, 510. Even one player tried to say it was $500 a ton. So markets offers are much cheaper than market quotes. You usually don't get this wide of difference. You don't get a little bit of a difference. You get some different views, but not this complete wide differing view, or one player thinks that the market's 570 for Thai rice, another person thinks it's 530, 540. In fact, I quote Thai rice at 560 today because it's in between what is possibly traded. Now, of course, on this BULOG tender, it was very, very specific and important. The awards of lowest were not actually given. What occurred was lot 1, 2, 8, 9, 10, and 13 were awarded. It was 2 lots of Viet and 4 lots of Myanmar/Pakistan. And just before we went to print, the lot 11 was actually given to Vietnam at 562.50. This is in the report, of course. All the Cambodian Thai results, 3, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, were not awarded as of right now. BULOG put a letter we put in the TRT asking for retendered. Same with award 12, which is again also a Thai Cambodian. The Thai Cambodian prices were vastly higher than everybody else. 613, 606, 607, very, very much higher than the rest of the market. So basically the Thais, by their own price, walked away from the tender. They didn't get anything in the last time. And so very, very fascinating. Very similar to the last tender. If it's all Myanmar, it'll be just Vietnam and Myanmar, really. But I would expect a couple of vessels probably come out of Pakistan as they move their price down to match, very likely. And so a lot of people have criticized, especially Olam, for trading at those levels. I would say that this market really comes down to the Indian and the India export ban. I continue to look at the Indian crop, which is just massive, and our team does a great job summarizing it along with the FCI stocks inside the report, which are massive. And I'm gonna get into it in a second. And if it does come out like a lot of the government officials are saying, it's going to be opening up the third quarter, or for me, fourth quarter, be announced probably in a week or so, that the market will vastly drop. So should the ties have gone down in price, maybe a bid at 550 FOB to get these tenders? Well, it all depends on India's announcement. Of course, as we state week after week, they're still shipping 530, 550,000 tons a week. Their monthly shipments that we put in the TRT this week were 1.1 million through the last month. So there's no shortage of trade. India continues to rocket home through various mechanisms, but the perception is there. So these tenders, and what the Philippines are demanding, from when I talked to some of our clients there, they're demanding lower prices. This is going to affect everybody significantly, and very important to the market. So what is price? I show prices in the TRT that are significantly higher in some cases than what the tender was. And I debate this. I write this in section 2. Very, very difficult to call a market when you have such wide results. And you see it. I mean, we call 5% in Thailand at 560. A lot of people call it at 570, 575. We call Vietnam at 550, but clearly it traded at 530. We call Pakistan at 530. 5%, but it traded much lower. I call India at 515. It's probably closer to 500, which is why I don't think a $500 floor is going to stick with cheap commodity prices for wheat, corn, soybeans. And again, we're going to come back to India in a second. They just have way too much rice, and the crop is huge, as we've been saying. They can't hold the waterfall of rice back. They need to open up and let it roll. Cambodia, again, just following the normal trend. Myanmar, 625, 525. So definitely a low price on that piece as well. So very, very diverse thoughts, wide range. And I get the U.S. is $800 a ton for long grain. South America is very similar. Argentina's 800, Brazil's 830, Uruguay's 785. And again, we get into the specialties and different things, but the reality is the quoted market is not the actual market. You can buy much cheaper. I hate being able to have prices in TRT that are not that are much lower if you can put. So Burnos, Kofco, if they weren't exporting more than they're importing, could definitely buy cheaper. Africa can buy cheaper, and so it's tough to say there's the prices because they're not. In fact, Thailand's just going to get pushed out. There's not going to be a lot of demand until they come down in price, which is probably with the heavy bookings okay with them for a while. But when India opens up, they're just going to have to fight for trade, and it's going to be kind of a miserable season for the Thais and Viets in my boat. Probably less Pakistan because I think they're going to have a big crop, but they're just going to follow in price heavily to follow India. But the Thais and Viets, I think, are going to have a very, very tough time. And I would watch Myanmar. The political stability is still not clear, and I would be very careful with it. But that does take us back to a very important point. India's crop is huge. We said it last week. It's about 145 million. And if you look at just consumption alone, a few years ago, they only consumed 100 million tons. One of our guys says they think they only do about 100 million, if not 90 million tons today for consumption. But if we use USDA's 120 million, which is a huge increase over the last several years, you're still going to have 25 million metric tons more that you're going to add to the balance, which is already massive. That's the problem. Half of world trade, if you include the other ends, it's all of world trade in 1 year that needs to be not taken off the market. Very significant. It's going to crash the market when it comes at a time that everything else is going lower. Wheat, corn, soybeans is weak. Oil went underneath $70 a barrel. This should not be misunderstood. Oil is underneath $70 a barrel. That's a huge technical piece. It's signaling a negative commodity time. I would watch it extremely close, very, very much extremely close. And I would not be surprised if beginning of the fourth quarter, India does open it up. The monsoon is currently about 8% ahead of normal. There is some clear heavy irrigation that's going to take care of any of the holes. There was a few holes. And I think the irrigation is going to make this a big crop. But our guys are saying very possibly 145 million tons. Very big crop. So that takes us to just a concern. The last thing I would just talk about, I would watch Thai politics a little bit. New leader. I'll be going actually to Asia tonight. See some friends in Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, and various other places. Just a quick couple-week trip and back. But there's a lot going on. Thailand's got a 37-year-old prime minister, another Thaksin family member. Actually, there's going to be a new cabinet that's going to come out, which is very important to rice, especially if the prices drop and subsidies have to be put in. Watch that closely, along with the U.S. election, which is just a wild mess, which will be all the way to when we're in the World Conference, November 5 to 7. We'll find out the beginning of the second day who the new U.S. president is, hopefully, if there's not a big dialogue of who is. So I would just end with this. What you're seeing in the rice market, you need to look at the Japonica market. I put the graphs into this week. Japonica prices in the first MA tender are very much like this BULOG tender. They dropped significantly. We had been saying that the prices, even we were quoting, were ridiculous. $800 a ton wasn't actual. We take the price down to 740. It was actually 730 on the MA tender. This is an old crop price, so not even a new crop price, which is likely to be much, much lower. And that's when long grain at $800. So I look back through 25 years, 30 years of data. This is the biggest spread between medium grain and long grain in history, which shows long grain's probably going to have to move down quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised while medium grain continues to fall. And what's happening in the Japonica Calrose market is very close to what's going to happen when our market realizes it's an oversupply. You can't get enough demand. You can't buy demand without massive price moves. Price demand is quite inelastic in the middle. And when you get really high prices, that will ration, and really low prices will get you demand. But it's inelastic in the bell curve unless you get to both sides. It's a great lesson. Watch the Calrose market. Watch what's going on in Japonica rice. It's a very big deal. So much more I could talk about. Of course, I could talk about the World Conference coming up. We're having great speakers. A lot of buyers from around the world are coming. I would bet you it's going to be one of the biggest in history. I'm so happy we're back in the Philippines, in Manila, which is where all the trade really wanted us to have the conference. And we're just looking forward to getting together with all the world trade. Of course, I'll be in Asia, as I stated, next week, and hopefully see several of our clients. With that, I look forward to speaking to you next week from Asia. This is Jeremy Zulik with the Rice Trader signing out. Talk to you soon.